Hi everyone. This is going to be a case study on how you manage your career in the AI era. We are going to apply the framework that I talked about before and how I used it at my work. So let's get started. I'm going to jump right into the case study. So here, this is going to be very specific to my work. Too often, observability tools are designed for the technical elite, and which leaves the majority of the team in the dark. Now, in this example, we cracked open the code on simplifying the experience so anyone can quickly get the insights we need. The key of this entire exercise is our interface hides the underlying complexity and it only surfaces the most important information at a glance. You don't get lost in a sea of graphs and metrics, and we put the answers front and center. And here I'll walk you through examples of how this approach drove 10x more adoption across the business. Get ready to be amazed. So this was the moment of truth for us. There was a call with a senior engineer during a troubleshooting call who expressed frustration not knowing how to write the right query to find the answer. In the midst of having to troubleshoot, figure out things, the additional burden of writing a query, making sure that it works is a huge challenge. And this is a common problem we have seen. Powerful tools locked behind complex query languages and that require specialized expertise and training. Like you can see, there's a person frustrated on the right staring at complex code on their screen with error messages. This is just to show that users often struggle with the complexity of our tools, unable to access the insights that they need quickly. And we need to find a way to empower users and not just create barriers and make it very specialized. This is the observability gap that we saw. First, the technical barriers, which is the disconnect between the complexities of monitoring tools and the user expectations for intuitive, plain language interfaces. This is again the pain from customers. On the technical side, we had seen hundreds of support cases related to issues with query languages, and in this case, Kusto query language, Prometheus query language. The complex syntax overwhelmed many users. From the user perspective, they just want answers. They do not want to have to learn or worry about complex query languages. They expect the monitoring tool have intuitive interfaces that allow them to ask questions in plain language. The documentation of these tools, while it was quite thorough, this can be overwhelming and users do not want to be having to go and look at docs. Our goal in this project based on this was to bridge this gap between the technical power of these tools and the user need for simplicity and ease of use without compromising the flexibilities and capabilities. So, like I mentioned, our approach is starting with pain. We saw that even advanced users struggle with our tools. They spend too much time crafting queries instead of solving real problems. The insights were there, but it was restricted by the technical complexity. Here, like I mentioned, the second one on aligning outcomes, we focused on a few different outcomes, which was improving the self-service query rate, not having to ask others or even file support cases to make sure that the query works. Increase dashboard creation. If users were more effective, they would be able to create and leverage these dashboards. We obviously wanted to reduce query related support tickets and broaden adoption across different roles. So we did not want just expert users to use this, and everyone should have access and be able to use this. These were the challenges we identified. Query syntax errors, very often they would have some error in the syntax, documentation issues, cognitive overload, too many docs, too much on the interface itself. Sometimes it was technically intimidating, and also a persona mismatch. We needed to address these deeper issues to truly empower our users and drive broader adoption of our analytics platform. So, what was the solution? A natural language interface. This interface allows users to ask questions about their app's performance in plain English without needing to know complex query languages. Our AI and LLM powered system, it translates the natural language questions into appropriate Kusto query language or Prometheus query language behind the scenes. This makes it easy for users to get the insights they need while also helping them learn the query languages over time. As they see the translated queries, they are also able to change the queries once they have it, ask more questions, and then customize it further based on their needs. We've also embedded this natural language interface directly into the portal, so users don't have to go elsewhere, a new chatbot or a new different place, and they can get all of these insights with zero prior query knowledge. The editable queries, like I mentioned, they are shown on the dashboards, and users can then customize and learn more about the underlying data and metrics. Once we did it had tremendous benefits, and some of the metrics are mentioned here. We saw a 10x increase in the dashboard adoption, and specifically in custom dashboards. They enabled 65% faster insights. So we saw that users were able to craft and run queries much faster than before. And this dashboard feature, it quickly became the first most requested features across all the different observability areas. And eventually this was packaged into a broader developer first initiative, which aligned with our product vision and creating internal visibility. Something that I did not mention here was once we had the solution, we also presented to explain how this helps both developers, business analysts, and other stakeholders. So that was key in terms of crafting a story, how it would help deliver the business outcomes, and only then proceeded with the solution. So what worked? This is first the instant reliability. Users felt the product finally spoke their language, and it was not like, they didn't have to learn the specific technical language itself. The internal visibility, we were able to share real stories and metrics, which again turned a technical solution into an opportunity. The improved onboarding, so customer satisfaction increased, especially new developers who are new. And these three successes demonstrate how we were able to connect with users on a deeper level and drive greater adoption of the product. Now, not everything that looks so shiny actually went so well. So these are some of the challenges and surprises from the project. Now, as you can imagine, just like with using any AI or ML, sometimes it didn't understand the resource name or filters, which led to inaccuracies and particularly frustrated power users. Sometimes the other thing was being overly reliant on the system, which reduced the motivation to learn the underlying the data and the query language. The biggest surprise to us, it wasn't just the time savings, it was reducing the sense of intimidation. It was this fact that users were more interested in coming and trying to use this out. The product felt more friendly and accessible, which mattered more for driving adoption than any productivity metrics. And mostly it was the emotional barriers more than the technical ones. The fact that it made it feel less daunting, we were able to drive much higher engagement. These are the key takeaways from this case study. So one, focus on natural languages, interfaces, documentation, and cognitive load, how they can impact product adoption and experience. And natural language is not just a feature, it's like an audience multiplier that extends your product reach to non-experts. If your product relies heavily on documentation, you have an opportunity to use AI to remove friction and improve the user experience. Treat your product's cognitive demands as a measurable usability metric that directly impacts adoption and satisfaction. Now, one thing I'd have done differently was to involve documentation and support teams earlier to ensure consistency in tone and answers across the product experience. The key here is the hardest part of observability is not the data, but interpreting the data and translating it into meaningful insights. Our solution uses AI to bridge the gap between complex technical data and the need for simple, actionable insights. This allowed us not just to improve the product, but also make it more approachable, learnable, and human-centered. Thank you so much for attending this talk. Now, I'd like to challenge you a little bit on how you could apply this. In your own work, try to translate a user question into a product insight. Now, write down a natural language version of this question. This could be something like, why is my login so slow on mobile? And try to translate this product query into an insight or action. So this could be something like, the session duration on Android is 3x higher than iOS latency, API latency. Now, this is to say that you don't need a model to start thinking like a translator. The better you get at framing questions and delivering clarity, the more valuable you become to your users, to your team, and your organization, and both for your career as well. Thanks again. I'm looking forward to listening more on how you found this useful and what else can be improved.